Hello, I'm Marc Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have Gavin Bell, the CEO of Econocom, in the studio in London during, actually, a tube strike. So well done for getting here, Gavin.
Thank you very much.
How are we doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
Really good. Really good. Gavin, normally when I get someone in the studio, I look at their LinkedIn profile and I have a little scour round through it, and then I pick something out to start with it. And yours is very, very classic. But I did notice this. You started at CC, or on your LinkedIn profile, you started at CC, 5.5 years. You left for a company for 6 months, and then you went back. So let's start there. Why did you leave? Why didn't you go to this company and work out, and why did you go back?
Yeah. And it's something I speak to people about quite a lot, actually, Mark. I'm very open with it, and actually there's a lot of people, I was talking to someone earlier today actually about where people are boomerangers, as you might call it, and come back. So I did 5.5 years, joined from the graduate scheme, did 5.5 years in public sector as an account manager, really enjoyed it, and then was looking to do more services, never really done a full-time job outside of CC, and thought, what's out there? And it was one of these typical things. It came along quick. Thought, Soprist area, well-known company, very services-based and SI. I'll go. Went across. And what I didn't appreciate, which is one of the first things that I say to people now, is cultural fit.
Right.
You know, a great company for people if you're used to it, but as you well know from Computacenter, very sales-oriented, very customer-focused. Soprist area, very customer-focused, but they were more, I'd say, more services with sales at the side rather than you're either in sales or you're supporting sales, which was the mentality I was used to. So did it for 6 months, learned a lot, did new business, built value propositions, got white space tools, all the rest of it. But after 6 months, just thought, you know what, it's not for me. And then thought, what am I doing? Always got on well with CC, obviously. Left well, as you want to do, and phoned up my old boss actually to go back to be an account manager. And then as it happened, met a couple of people that I used to know on the steps of Blackfriars, I remember. Went for a sandwich with my old boss, and I said I was looking to come back. Went in and joined the workplace team and was there until I left 15 months ago. So sometimes these things are meant to happen.
Absolutely. Would you say, you've mentioned there something about leaving on good terms. Would you advise people, if they can, to always leave on good terms? Because you could always go back if you wanted to.
100%. I think there's no need not to leave on good terms. If it's the right time for you to leave, then it is, you know, and if someone in my organisation wanted to leave the company, as much as I wouldn't want them to go, you've got to do what's right for you, and we can't always meet people's career aspirations, but leave well. Even if you don't come back to that organisation, we all know it's a small industry. You know, the amount of people that then pop up, and I think certainly in the last 15 months, you know, coming out of Computacenter and having the relationships I've built there over 20 odd years and going in, you know a lot of people. So I don't get why people wouldn't leave on good terms if it's possible.
You've had a stellar career at CC. You've moved up. You got to the role of Director of Workspace. For those of the individuals out there that maybe not know what that is, give us a bit of an overview of what you were doing.
So Director of Workplace for CC is really around products and services, but solutions, transformation. So I was responsible for the UK. I did that for about 4 years before I finished. That was basically helping our customers do workplace transformations. So that could be largely around the Microsoft stack, but also clearly Citrix, looking at VDI, other pieces around it, but anything that touched the desktop. So my team looked after hardware, software, and transformational services. There were other functions that helped in terms of the hardware and software specialisms. And then we had the managed service team. But yeah, I led a team of specialists that were, and I hate the term, but an overlay sales function, working with account managers, client directors and their customers to really drive those solutions. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. When I went up to be a head of sales and then director of workplace, I still tried to get involved a little bit in the selling and the solution side of it. And I'm still a solution specialist by heart. But when you've done it for that long, that just is how it is, isn't it?
You mentioned there about the word overlay, and when I hear the word overlay, most people say to me, "Oh, they're not really salespeople. They just come in, the sales already done. They just talk about some specialist stuff, and they get paid in it." So, why did that term sort of trigger you when I said, you don't like the term overlay?
Exactly for that reason. Exactly for that reason. Again, we had a term opportunity owner. And that person came in and owned the opportunity. And I'm clearly biased, but I've done both roles. I go back to I was an account manager for 5+ years before I did it. But yeah, the perception is you wander in, you have a bit of a chat, you pick up a PO and say thanks very much, and off you go, and then someone has to deliver it. Trust me, if that was the job, I'd still be doing it, Mark. But it's a good model. We have the same model in Econocom. We've grown that over the last 12 months or so since I've been there. They don't want to be involved in everything. Run rate should go through, but when you need specialism and specialism with a sales kind of angle as well, I think the solution specialist role is an important one. But I go back to, I'd be biased, but I hate the term overlay because it does feel like you're a bag carrier or a in, out and done.
Absolutely.
And that's not been the case in my experience.
Absolutely. Gavin, you could have stayed at CC. You could have been a lifer there. You could have carried on. But why did you make the jump for Econocom, and why did you make the jump now? What was the opportunity?
Sure. Other than my 6 months at Sopra Steria, I'd been at CC for, all of my career since I left university. I literally came out of the graduate scheme, went into account management, went into workplace and stayed there. I'm 46. I know I look older, but I'm 46 before you tell me. But I think you get to a point. I'd done the workplace role for 4 years. I picked it up just as COVID hit. So I came in thinking I was going to do one thing, and then COVID hit, and we did all the stuff for the schools and everything else. And it was a really interesting time. After 4 years, you get to a point where you think, what's next? And I wasn't actively looking, to be honest. As you say, I could have stayed there forever. I get on very well with the leadership there. A lot of my friends are there that I've grown up with. The Econocom thing came across, and it was so different to what I was doing in terms of CC was very established. A very large customer base, very well known in the industry. For me, the excitement coming into Econocom was where we were trying to build something in the UK. Before the Trams acquisition in 2021, the only thing Econocom did in the UK was financing. And we still do that. It's still a big part of our business in the UK. But given the broader role, the CEO role, which, you're not going to get a broader role than that, in my opinion. And also given the opportunity to build, and, Econocom is very established in a lot of European countries, but actually, less so in Germany and the UK, which clearly are the two biggest economies. So really, the pitch, if you like, from them was, we want to overinvest in the UK and Germany, grow our portfolio. We want someone that knows the market and can help us to build it. So it was the different bit. And I think, you always have to, if you've got a partner, normally you have to listen to them. Certainly my wife, and she said, look, I think if you don't do it now, you never will. And there'd be nothing wrong with that, but I thought, right, let's go and do it.
The timing was right.
It was.
Right. Now, this is your first CEO role.
Yeah.
When you got into the building, what needed fixing? What made you excited about doing the role?
When I took the role to run the products and solutions business for the UK for Econocom. They were nearly 3 years into the acquisition of Trams. I was coming in to replace one of the owners that was then leaving. And I came in thinking it was going to be all about Econocom. I spent 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks is about listening, right? So I had 2 weeks, then I went on holiday for 10 days. It was pre-organised. So I spent 2 weeks going around the business. And actually, it didn't feel like I'd come into Econocom. It felt like I'd come in to run Trams. And that was the first thing for me. The little comments about they've done this or we need to speak to them about that. And I was saying, we are them. We are Econocom. And it was Trams Econocom on the badge. We'd gone from Trams to Trams Econocom as Econocom do when they do the acquisitions. Econocom had owned a majority stake for, as I say, best part of 3 years. And we were coming to finalising that acquisition to 100% be owned. But it still felt like the Trams bit. And that was the bit for me. It was kind of going, hang on, how do we address that? So, there was a lot of internal selling. A lot of customer conversations. We accelerated dropping the Trams name, which some of our customers got a little bit nervous about. And I had to, some of our biggest customers saying, but we like you because you're agile, you're relatively small compared to some of the bigger players, you're a personalised service, you can adapt for us, you do bespoke. And I was saying to them, but we'll still do that. You won't lose that. You've still got that personal, agile and adaptable service, but we're just owned by a 2.7 billion euro organisation across 16 countries. And once we got over that, then the customers saw the opportunity. But I think that was the biggest thing. The culture was, it still felt like it was Trams. And I was like, I've not come to run Trams. I've come to run a part of Econocom in the UK.
Do you think there was resistance then of the takeover or the rebrand? What was that?
A lot of people had been there for a long time. And it was one of the things that attracted me to go. Because that was, you knew CC, that's similar there. So I liked that, but I think it had almost been that they'd put it to one side and they'd carried on as they are. And, I don't think it was resistance, but it did feel like a little bit us and them between Econocom Group and Trams Econocom. And that was what we really had to break down. Now, I went over to an event for 4 days about 3 months in, and that really helped because I met lots of people across the group, and it was an opportunity for us to promote. But at one point, if someone in group needed to engage for support in the UK, they might go to one of our competitors rather than come to Trams. And it was like, so it was about education both ways. It was about international business isn't always easy, and it might take a little bit longer, it might be a little bit more complicated, but stick with it. But yeah, now the team see the opportunity, and I think a lot of that is because our customers see the benefit.
Yeah.
So where we've got public sector is different, but where we've got customers that are European-based customers, that we can now help them across the UK and Europe, where before it was very much UK. So the customer sees a benefit. Hopefully the team do as well.
Now, you might not be the best person to ask this because you've actually made the transition into a CEO job. My question to you is, do you sort of see the top jobs circulating round the same people? And people say to me often, Mark, I just can't get into the top jobs. Now, you've proved it wrong. You've actually gone and got a top job as a CEO for the first time in another company. I think that is quite unique. So what's your general opinion? Do you think the top jobs get circulated around the same people in our industry? Is that a difficult question to answer, Gavin? What do you think?
I'm thinking about it. I think, look, you see the same names that come across, whether that's across the vendor partners, the distributors, the reseller. You see someone went from A to B. And I think that's natural, isn't it? Go back to it's a small industry and people know people. And even if you weren't working for them, we all go to enough events. I'm at an industry event next week for 3 days. I'll meet a lot of our competitors, and my peers in those competitors are similar. So I think you do know people. And if you're going for a senior role, you want someone you can trust. I remember a question being asked many, many years ago on the graduate scheme to Mike Norris about, at Computacenter, would you employ someone in a senior role you didn't know? And he very quickly went, no, I need to build a relationship and trust them. And I think I don't think it's necessarily that it's a small group, but the group. I think for me, look, let's face it, we are growing in the UK and Ireland. We've doubled the number of employees we have since I joined just over a year ago in the products and solutions business in UK and Ireland. But we're not the size of some of the bigger players. For me, that was part of the opportunity coming in. I wouldn't have got a CEO role in one of the bigger organisations, but I've got the opportunity to build it, and that's what I've taken, Mark. But I think I understand why people move around, but you need new people coming up because people are retiring. People are, we got to that point now where people are deciding to go off and do something different, and new people need to come up.
What advice would you give to that new person that's got aspirations to do the job you're doing, or maybe they're in CC or inside CDW and they're thinking, I'd love to go and get a top job at a smaller player? What advice would you give them to get into a position where they could actually be considered for that?
I think you've got to look at, as you go through an organisation, and I go back to when I was a specialist, the very nature of that job is you're an expert. And what I realised towards the latter end of my career in Computacenter was you can't go across everything and you don't have to know everything. So it's around some of the softer skills. They are then transferable skills, but you're going to have to learn a lot. And I think it's looking at where those transferable skills in and where you can come and add value. I'm an out-and-out salesperson. So I think for me coming in, the main focus is on sales. And someone said to me the other day, my sales director, either you're in sales or you're supporting sales. And that's really true. So I think, you've got to always keep an eye on that, but then being able to get the right experts around you. And that's certainly what I found out coming, into Econocom. I do it my way. It's a different way to my predecessor because he owned the business or half the business for over 20 years and had grown up around it. But you do it your way, but leverage the people around you. And I think, if you can do that, then you're halfway there.
Let's talk AI, Gav, because it's the big buzzword in the market at the moment.
Everyone's doing it, yeah.
And everyone's talking about it. And people sort of say to me, we're going to have like a bonfire of white-collar workers. Everyone's going to lose their job and everyone's going to be really struggling. Yeah. How is your organisation reacting to that? And how are you incorporating AI into the business? And if you are, are you creating more jobs than losing jobs at the moment?
We're not losing jobs, I think, is the first thing, Mark. I think we're not looking at it as a way to save money and reduce headcount. What we're looking at it is where we can provide a better service to customers at a more competitive rate. So looking at things like chatbots and other things on the service desk. We've got a big service desk over in Morocco and remote support. So where we can use things like that to support our customers, as I say, get to a better price point, provide a better service, that kind of thing. The other side of it is where we can look at scale. So we're looking at, for example, for doing some of our bids. We get a lot of public sector bids that come in, for example. We're trying to get through them. Actually, if we can do an initial pass of the bid to get a summary of what might be an 80, 90, 100-page bid that then gives us the bare bones of it to help to qualify, are we going to go for this or aren't we?
Yeah.
That helps us to go across more. So that's really where we're looking at. We've got a few different proof of concepts across the group. That's being looked after by our CIO and his team. But yeah, I don't think it will kill people off. I think it's going to be, you still want an opinion. I think that's the thing. If not, we will put it into Chat GPT, and you get the same answer. So, but yeah, where you can provide a better service for less, whether you can get more scale, I think that's where people will see it. And obviously, we're helping our customers navigate that journey as well.
Has it affected morale? Are people internally worried about thinking this bot's going to take my job next week, or it's going to be suddenly I'm going to be unemployed? Is there a morale issue at all with the sort of the pace of AI coming in?
No, I don't think so. No? In the company, I think it is more, we all have pinch points.
Yeah.
And if all of a sudden, and we're all under cost pressures, every organisation is, I expect. So I think it's more about being able to release some of that pressure and getting people to not do more themselves, but have more capacity within the function, is what we're seeing. I'm not seeing people in my organisation that are thinking, God, I'm going to be replaced by AI in 6, 12, whatever many months.
This is quite a controversial one, because I get asked this a lot about ageism in the market, in the channel. And with the rapid change of tech, are older professionals potentially being left behind? And I'll say older, I'm 50 next year, and I'm thinking, people over 50 in tech, with the rapid change and adoption of AI, can they be reskilled quick enough, or does their expertise of having experience be really still vital for organisation? In 5 years' time, are you going to be struggling to get a job done?
So I never thought I'd be talking about my dad in this, but I will. I'll go with it. My dad still works, and he's 71, and he works in IT. And he does 3 days a week. He keeps telling my mum he's going to retire, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. But where I think so. Absolutely, you can see is where you've got that experience, that expertise. He's had a career in IT as a prime example. So whilst you can get automation, whilst technology does go at an alarming rate, including AI, I still think you've got that space for people that absolutely, if they're willing to continue to train and develop and evolve, there is space for it, and they've got a wealth of experience kind of on the ground of how to, again, going back to some of those softer skills perhaps. So yeah. I think people are in. I think 100% you want people in, and we've got an ageing population. Yeah. People are naturally, I've been asked before by people, when do you think you're going to retire? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever retire fully. I don't think I can see myself kicking around the house. I play golf badly, but that's about it. So, yeah, I think there is the opportunity there, but I think people will value that expertise and knowledge. So yeah,
so still a vital part.
I think we'll be all right for a few more years between us, Mark.
Okay,
hopefully.
Hopefully. That's given me some reassurance then. Yeah. Let's talk about Econocom in 2025 and the sort of targets, because I noticed you were sort of setting a pretty bold £4 billion by 2028. Is that generally realistic, or what's your view on that? So 4 billion 2028. How are we going to get there?
4 billion euros. So it makes it a little bit easier, but still a stretch.
Still a big number.
Still a stretch. Yeah. So we came up with that before my time. So we did our strategic plan in 2023. So it was a 5-year plan to get to 4 billion. It is a stretch, but that's not just through organic growth. So that's a mixture of organic growth and acquisition. We have programs like we have Mission Impossible, which is here to help to accelerate our sales performance, and that's going really well and is on track. So we are expecting to be able to achieve it, but I say it will be a mixture of organic growth, but also inorganic growth. And we raised 225 million euro back in May in funding to help us. We went for 100 million. We stopped at 225 because we certainly didn't need any more to help with some of those targeted investments. So it will be a mixture. Why is it 4 rather than 4.2 or 3.8? I don't know. Possibly because it was a nice round number, but it's certainly a good target for us to aim at. And everyone in the group knows that's our aspiration. Let's
talk about acquisitions. You maybe talk about investments there. I hear that you're sort of targeting between maybe 20 and 100 person boutique organisations. Why that size specifically? It's quite specific.
Yeah, it's not actually size specific for us, but I can see what it looked like. You look at the acquisitions we've made, certainly in the UK, and they've been within that kind of realms. I think for us, it's more about the fit for the portfolio.
Right.
That's what we're looking at. That said, we aren't huge in the UK compared to some of the other providers. If we came across a 500 seat organisation, and it was the right fit, the right portfolio to benefit and supplement what we've got today in the UK, we'd look at it. What I would say is we want to keep the culture in Econocom. We've been around for over 50 years, going back to, and you hopefully won't take this in the wrong way, an ageing workforce. Our chairman and founder, or our founder, Jean-Luc Bouchard, is 84. He's still our operating chairman. He did my final interview. So, he's got a very strong culture. He founded the company 50 years ago. If you start to get too big an organisations that you're acquiring, are you acquiring them, and does that culture go through or not? I don't know. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but for me, that would be the only thing I would say. But it's more around complementing the services and the propositions we've got rather than the size of the organisation.
And when you have those discussions with that sort of organisation, a small company that maybe wanted to be bolted onto a large organisation like Econocom, how do you present the opportunity to them? How do you sort of sell them to say, you should be coming over to the organisation and being acquired by us?
I think the first thing is we have acquired, over the last 30 years, I think it's around 60 organisations. So it's a fantastic amount of organisations, and I've only been here a relatively short time, but they've been successful. There's some that I'm sure have moved on, but largely that's worked very, very well. So the first thing is we know what we're doing. We've got a proven track record. I think we explain to them we see the value in what they're doing. There's no point acquiring a company and then totally changing it, ripping it up, and starting again. You might as well employ some people and put a brand in, So actually the way that we do it and what we're quite keen on is the owners stay with us.
Yeah.
There's never a one size fits all, Mark, but in an ideal world, we want them staying for a number of years and keeping a stake in the company because we want them to feel invested in it. And the first thing we do is tell them we're here to support but not interfere. So we're not here to change it. We acquired Image Supply Systems AV over in Dublin at the end of the half, so end of June, 1st of July, we acquired them. Brendan and Niall owned that company. They ran it very successfully. I go over and help them. I'll go and support them, but I'm not here to change it. And I think that's the thing for them. And we've seen quite a lot of success where people have stayed. My boss, Israel Garcia, runs the whole of the UK and sits on our board. His background is he sold an AV company in Spain to Econocom. He did that back in 2018, I think it was. That completed in 2021 and he's still stayed. So there's a lot of people here that actually have kind of made that transition, enjoy the culture, enjoy the people and what they're doing and carry on. And, these are entrepreneurial people. They've had their own businesses. They've been very successful and, they can add a lot of value to the company.
Let's talk general. Services is now 3 times bigger than the hardware and software sales. How are you shaping your business to sort of capture that opportunity?
The UK is a mixture of in-house capability and partners. When I first came in, it was making sure we had the right partners and we knew what we were doing around it. So I think, we went from having multiple to having a strategy around if it's this type of opportunity, this is it. I would always be open with that. I've always done that through my career and I'd continue to do it. We're starting in-house we have some managed service, some support services and advisory services and do some transformation and then building it back out. But we've made some structural changes around things like pre-sales. So we have a dedicated pre-sales team now that can help support some of those conversations that we didn't have before. They did pre-sales and delivery and managed services and some other stuff as well. So it's growing from that out is what we're looking at. And then where we can go back to the group, where we can leverage the group, where can we leverage Morocco? The AV business, we have 750 people across the group that are dedicated to our AV business, which is now one of the biggest AV businesses globally. Where can we leverage that capability in Spain or in Morocco or in France and supplement what we've already got in the UK and Ireland? So it's building it out. Again, going back to acquisitions, I don't know what will be in the future, but services is always part of that kind of thought process now for us.
Let's talk about the brand.
Okay.
You've worked for a brand that most people know in the UK, Computacenter.
Yeah.
Econocom, maybe they don't know as well, but it is still a big company, a large revenue company. Does the Econocom brand carry enough weight in the UK that you can get into the biggest fights, the biggest customers, because you've got enough leverage and you're turning over enough money and got enough capability. So is the brand going to be strong enough to get into these sort of customers?
It is leveraging the group.
Yeah.
And that is the bit. But actually, for Trams, they had some big customers. There were some customers when I was at Computacenter that actually Trams also supplied. Right. So we've got some of the biggest organisations you can think of. I won't mention their names, but we've got some substantial brands that are truly global. One of them is over 200,000 employees.
But really?
Wow.
But
we as Trams provided quite a niche subset, which was really mainly around Apple. Now, what we've done as part of me coming in and the transition and the evolution is then expanding the services capability that we've got, the technology portfolio we've got across those customers to try to get more. But we're certainly having bigger conversations with people, but that is bolstered by the fact of we are now part of a 8,500 employee organisation across 16 countries, and we're backed by that. But we go back to we've still got the agility and the kind of the personal service, etc., that we're known for in the business. So, I'm biased, but we're trying to give the best of both.
When you said that, I was thinking you've almost got the best of both worlds. You've got big capabilities, large revenues, capabilities globally, niche service, smaller player, etc., a bit more nimble. Do you play on that you've actually got the best of both?
Yeah, 100%. We have strategic relationships with a lot of the vendor partners. We unashamedly will leverage that out of what we've got at a group level. Some of it we have a standalone on the UK, but some of it we do leverage. But we go back to it's that personalised service. We're still for what we're known for. So we do.
Gavin, what stops you just being another reseller, just like everyone else? What's the real differentiator in your model?
I'd say we're not a reseller, pure and simple. It is solutions. I think that's the evolution that we're doing in the UK. We're more mature in Europe for that, but we are a integrator and solutions provider. And there's nothing. By the way, Mark, if a customer comes to me and says, "I need 2,000 laptops," I'll happily sell them to them. That is not a problem, to be clear. But I think more and more customers are looking for the value around it, and for us, that's around the services capability, the lifecycle services that we've got. But a big part of us, and I think the biggest differentiator for us, as well as the lifecycle services, is the finance capability. Yeah. We have four pillars that we call them in Econocom. So we've got workplace, we've got AV, we've got infrastructure, and strategic financing. That's not just IT assets. We finance helicopters, boats, machinery, and we have our own financing function as well as using the normal finance providers. But more and more where customers are moving to that kind of OPEX model, that positions us very well with them. When you're looking at residual values, when you're looking at what's in the market, we've got that to play with in-house and a real expertise around it. That's what Econocom was founded on. It wasn't IT, it was financing. And not everything has to be as a service, but it's a strong part of our portfolio.
I was going to say that's got to be a massive advantage for you against another, let's not call them reseller, another solutions provider who hasn't got that capabilities, that hasn't got those options to finance. Do you sort of lead with that, or is it around service more?
It's asking the question.
Right.
What we don't want to do is every single customer has to have a finance solution. We've both been around long enough, and I've worked in workplace long enough to DAS. Well, what do you mean by DAS? We want DAS. We don't have to push it, but it's an option. So it's having the conversation early enough with that customer, and that's where we're going with. Yeah. And actually, we have more collaboration now than ever between we have a separate sales team that do financing to my sales team. It's run by a different person. But the collaboration with them over the last 12 months has been more than ever because we see that as a differentiator. And it won't be right for every customer, the same as services won't be right for every customer. But I think you look at the market, you look at generally people are struggling with budgets. I've come across a lot of customers that have said historically, I would have never considered any kind of financing. We've always been CapEx. Actually, now they're struggling and going, it might be an option for us. And that's all you can do. You can offer the options.
Couple of quick fire ones for you, Gavin. You're not going to like this, but I'm going to say it. If you got sacked tomorrow, what would you do next? Is there anyone you'd approach in the market, any company that you've admired from afar?
Look, I've been with one of the largest solutions providers in Computacenter. I'm doing something that I'm loving and do in a different way with Econocom. It would probably go to maybe the other side maybe more vendor partners, maybe more distribution. It's something that I haven't done before. The alternative is to come out of IT, but I love IT.
You can't do that.
I do love IT, and I don't love IT because I'm not a particular techie. But I love that. The reason I came into IT was because it was fast changing, it was evolving. You get to meet some great people, you get to help them to do things to help with their business. So I can't see me moving out of IT. But yeah, if my boss decided it was time for me to move on tomorrow, and hopefully he won't. He's in later, so I'm hoping that's not why he's come across. So I'll let you know. But no, maybe distribution, but actually vendor land I think would be quite interesting to see the other side of it.
You're thinking maybe another part of the channel?
Yeah. I'm a lifer, I think.
Quick answer on this. Are you return to the office or still work from anywhere?
I'm in between, but I prefer return to the office. So I think the thing we changed was before when I first came, it was 3 days a week in the office. And I changed that to the priorities are with your customers, then with our partners, then the office, then home. We're about to move offices in London, and we're going to be not too far from here, near Moorgate, to a bigger office. But I've consistently said to the team, you can't collaborate as effectively if none of you are in. And I think that's the thing. Customers are coming back into the office. There's nothing like a face-to-face meeting. You saw it last week, Marc, with what you were doing. So we need a bit of flexibility. I think that will stay with us. I can't see us coming 5 days a week. But at a group level, and certainly for my own team, being in the office is the most effective way.
I heard the term, which I quite liked, is 4 days out of your house. Yeah, which I quite like that. Whether it's a customer, whether it's with your team, whether it's in the office, whether it's on the road at a service station, whatever you're doing. Yeah. But you're not just sitting at home insular, and I quite like that.
100%.
It gives a bit of flexibility. So I'm a bit of a fan of that. Is there any AI tools that you use on your phone today?
I don't use any.
None?
None.
Not one?
No. Well, I'll say that, and then I'll just check with one of my kids when I get home, and they'll tell me I do. But no, I mean, no. I don't use ChatGPT. No, it's not something a lot of my team do, and they'll do it to get an initial draft of something. But no, it's not something that I use myself.
What if you had to do a presentation? Would you run it through ChatGPT and?
No, but I might start. No, not really. No, I think for me, I like it. In my office at home, I have a whiteboard. I like analog occasionally, and for me, putting my thoughts, I can't help it. But getting your thoughts on, and that's how I start it. No, I think for me, if I have a starter for 10, I then struggle to come away from that, if that makes sense. So for me personally, no, I don't have anything. I'm probably a Luddite, and I still do have an A5 notebook. I apologise, but that's how I am.
Couple of closing questions for you. For someone that is going into their first CEO job, like you've done, what would be the one bit of advice you'd give them to sort of step into that role?
The first thing I'd say is, which I'm sure everyone would say, is go in and listen. Go and spend some time. And I met, the first 2 weeks, I literally met as many people as I could, like half an hour one-to-ones, knowing that I was going to be off for 2 weeks. I didn't stop listening after 2 weeks, but I got a good view of the business, what worked, what didn't work, where people's frustrations might be, where they thought we were doing some great stuff. Going in and listening is really, really important in any organisation, and take time to reflect yourself, actually, because when you're in there, all of a sudden, depending on the situation you're going in, and I was quite lucky, I had my predecessor there for 3 months, so I had a bit of an easier route. But if you're coming in and there might have been a gap or whatever, the risk is you're in from day one and you're firefighting from day one. So take some time. But the other side of it is do it your way. Yeah. And when I came in, because the two owners previously had grown up in it, they'd been in there 25, 30 years, they did certain activities that they had just evolved. Approving purchase orders and invoices and that. And I came in and straight away said, I'm not going to do that. That is not my skill set. There are people in the organisation that are better placed than me to do that. My strengths are here, here, and here. So I think put your own marker on it. Don't try to be the next person that's coming in because you want to be the same as them. That's not going to work. You've got to be you, but you've got to take the good bits of the organisation, and then my job is to support the team. That's it. If there's an issue, I'm there to unblock it. If they want advice and guidance, I'm there to do it. But use the team around you.
My last question, I don't want you to sit on the fence, and I don't want you to say Econocom. I want you to tell me who you think is the one to watch in 2025. And what I mean by that is either a reseller, a distributor, a vendor, an MSP, an IT company that you think they're going to do well, Mark, in 2025.
I think NVIDIA.
NVIDIA.
I still smashing out there. I mean, it's just my my eldest is doing economics at uni and keeps telling me why I should have invested in NVIDIA. He'd also told me why I needed to invest in lots of other companies that haven't done so well. But but they're knocking it out of the park. But all of our they're a significant partner of ours. You look at what's happening around AI and processing power. I think they've got a great, many years ahead of them if they continue to get it right. So I think, if there's one I just think will continue to grow and grow, I think it's NVIDIA.
Gavin, you've been a great guest. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Mark. Great to see you.